Good morning. So welcome to this blustery day in Hartland Quay in Devon, and today we are going to talk about long exposure and seascapes, and there's no better place to be than the wonderful windswept October, being pushed over by the wind as I speak, Devon. This wonderful place, and I want to take you and show you some of these beautiful places and teach you how to do long exposure sea photography. So let's go for it. Hello, so we are at the second spot. I'm holding my mic right up close to my mouth because it is really windy and there's the noise of this beautiful waterfall over here, Spekes Mill. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to start at the first location, and I'm going to take you through using a 6-stop filter. So using a 6-stop filter allows you to not completely create a smooth, creamy effect. And what that does is it allows some of the character of the water to come through. It's a beautiful, characterful, gnarly waterfall, this. And we really want to get some of the character of that water so that shutter speed is not as extended as it is for a 10-stop. And I'll show you how to use a 10-stop as well. So first thing we're going to do then, depending on what lens and what camera you're using, you can do this in different ways. So first thing I'm going to do, here's my 6-stop filter. They come square, they come in screw-in filters, all different types depending on what you're using. I'm using a Lee 100 system. You can use loads of different types of systems. So first thing we want to do is either with or without a polarizing filter. Generally with water it's better with a polarizing filter, is to work out the exposure time. So you can either put it on aperture priority or you can put it on auto. And make sure that you are doing two things. First of all, you set your ISO to quite low, so around 64 or 100. Set your aperture to roughly about f8, f9, something like that, so that you don't get too much light coming into the camera. And then you need to put your camera on manual focus. That's the really, really big one. And then, just because the water's really coming in all over the lens at the moment, I'm just going to pop this back in for a minute. And then you take the shot. And the shot will tell you what shutter speed you need. So it will basically, what you're looking for in that shot is you're looking for a well-exposed photograph, like the one I'll put up now. So when you're looking at this photograph, you'll see that the water's just normal, it's pretty kind of freeze frame. You haven't really kind of controlled the water and the kind of texture. Now we're going to control the texture. So that shot was shot at about 1/60th of a second. Now, I'm going to use this little app called the Big Stopper app. Now what you do is you scroll for the time that you have on the camera, and the time is roughly 1/60th of a second. So then I know with a 6-stop filter that I need roughly 1 minute worth of exposure time. So ND filters are basically like sunglasses for the camera. I'll just pop that back in. So it's going to slow down the shutter speed, it's going to slow down the time. So now we know it's roughly going to be around 1 second. So we've done manual focus, we've looked at the exposure, we've got the exposure right first of all. Then we have to do one more thing. If you've got it, either use a shutter release to plug in, or you make your camera 2-second or 5-second timer. That is because any shake on the camera, any hitting the camera, will create a blurry image at this type of length of exposure. We're talking a whole second or a whole 2 seconds. What happens is any nudging of the camera at all will cause a problem. So I'm going to take the shot and talk you through it. So first of all, I've got it all set up, I've got it focused, just going to go for it and I'm going to take the shot. So whilst it's taking, a couple of things. So try to block the wind, but try not to touch, kick the camera or the tripod at all. Just keep it exactly still so that everything around that beautiful smooth water can be in focus, and then the gorgeous water itself will be out of focus. Now, this is what a 6-stop does. It allows for a certain amount of blurring, but not too much. You can still see the character in that shot that I will put up now. And you can clearly see that there's some elements of splash and water in there. And that's the beauty of a 6-stop filter. So, on to using a 10-stopper in another location. So sometimes with landscape, one of the lovely things about it is the small little elements of landscape and the way that the small elements repeat the big elements within the landscape. And here we can almost see these kind of overlapping, interlacing hills, and yet they're only about 3 foot high. It's gorgeous. Okay folks, so this one we're going to do a quick big stopper, so a 10 stop filter. So first of all, I've got my big stop app. I've done exactly as I did last time. I've worked out the time. It's roughly a 30th of a second, and that means on the app that it's 30 seconds there. Okay, so I'm going to set my camera for a 30-second exposure. So basically, don't worry if it goes completely kind of haywire looking, it's fine. So it will go completely kind of white and light, but I've got my ISO, I've focused it, I've got everything ready. Now I just need my 10 stop. So I'm going to put my 10 stopper on and going like that. And then I'm just going to quickly go for my release mode. So I'm going to make it a 2-second timer again and take the shot. Again, I'm trying to just guard this from too much wind, but I don't want to touch it. So it's a bit of a longer exposure because this is a 10-stop filter. So what it does is it slows that shutter speed down even more than the 6-stop. And it means that you do get that smooth, creamy kind of feel to it, which really produces a character of its own. It's nothing like it. 10 and 15 stop photography really recreates the water and turns it into something completely different. Now, this is only something if you really, really want it. Otherwise, it can take away from the wateriness, the splash and things like that. So, first of all, I'm just going to have a look at my exposure. So I'll put the first one up on the screen at the moment. That was the setting that the big stopper recommended, but I think it's too bright. So I'm going to go again, 2 stop. I'm going to go for 20 seconds now. So 2 seconds timer on the camera, and then 20 seconds. I just realised you probably can't hear me. Let's hope for the best. Okay, so I'm going to go. This one, I'm going for 20 seconds with the big stopper, and we're going to see how it comes out. Beautiful. That's looking good.
apologies for this one, but my mic went out. So I'm doing this from the studio. So firstly, what I was trying to do was take reflections on a 10-stop filter of Black Church Rock using the reflecting pool. Now, the problem with the reflections, obviously, there was a lot of wind that day with the storm. So I was taking out the reflections using my ND filter in order to flatten down the surface of the water and create a really still feeling reflection. Now, this is another way of using a 10-stop ND filter really effectively. The end result doesn't really look like it's changed. You can get a nice, clear reflection. So I was using a 10-stop ND to photograph against the rocks to really try and get a sense of kind of misty stillness in the water against the texture of the rocks. Using a 10-stop ND allows you to really blur out the movement of the sea to create a misty effect, as you'll see in the photograph I'll put up on the screen now.
So folks, there we have it, long exposure in this beautiful, windy, mad place. Using 6-stop filters, even using 3-stop filters and 10-stop filters, you get such a different experience of the landscape. Sometimes it can be to the detriment of the landscape and you kind of feel like it's too artificial, almost like over-editing a photograph. But if you use it sensitively within the character of the landscape and really think about what you want to achieve, using ND filters and long exposure photography can be really creative and a way of really defining the space within the image and the contrast within your landscape. So I hope that helps, and I'll see you on the next one.